Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. Our guest today is Tunisian President Moussef Marzouki, who's on a state visit in France for 3 days, welcomed by the President and Prime Minister and Parliament. And it seems that the page has definitely been turned. The Ben Ali regime has fallen, Nicolas Sarkozy has left. Are relations good now between Paris and Tunis?
Absolutely. In any case, relations between France and Tunisia are so intense, so dense, almost intemporal, that the politicians can't change very, very much, but it is obvious that when the two powers in place get on well, it makes our relationships much easier. And I think today we have a boulevard in front of us for our relationships.
Relations are hence off to a new and positive start.
Absolutely.
Perhaps the more difficult case here, the debt, and what we call the odious debt, which is a theory according to which a dictatorship has accumulated debt, and the succeeding democratic regime is not necessarily supposed to pay it off. Have you made any progress on this case?
Yes, but you must distinguish between the odious debt, which is part of the debt which wasn't used by the country but was used by the dictatorship. Tunisia will reimburse its debt. That has been decided. It is absolutely clear.
The whole debt?
Except for the part that we will try to determine, to decide. This will take time. We want to comply with our international commitments. What I discussed with the President, François Hollande, is something else. It's something different. For us, if our friendly countries, and France is our leading friendly country, if they are prepared, at least for part of that, I know they have their own economic difficulties, and the timing is not perfect, but if all our French and European friends are prepared to recycle part of this debt in operations in favor of development, and which we can use this money, which the French would authorize us to recycle this money to place orders with French industry, and this could transform our debt into a process of economic development which would be beneficial to both the French and the Tunisians, and this could be a new form of cooperation. And I think this, I got a very comprehensive response from the President.
You're hence well decided to getting Ben Ali's money back from wherever it has been stashed, and we heard that money in Switzerland is supposedly available. Where are we at?
Well, with the Swiss, we are making progress. There is a lot of collaboration with our Swiss friends. They want to pay back the money which has been found, which is about 60 million euros, and we think that is only a drop in the ocean, because we think that Ben Ali and his family stole from Tunisia between 50 and 20 billion dollars, colossal amounts of money. And of course, they have hidden this money away. They didn't put it under their names in bank accounts.
Is there any money in France?
No, I don't think there is any money in France, but in some countries which I will not name, but I don't think there is any money in France. What we will ask our French friends is to help us to trace this money, because they are specialists, and these crooks are specialists for hiding this money away. So we need top-level financial experts to help us to trace this money, and President Hollande has promised to help us.
How about Ben Ali's extradition from Saudi Arabia? Has that come to a standstill?
For the moment, it's blocked, but we will continue our efforts. We have repeated to the Saudis that they have no right morally to give refuge, to harbor a man who is a thief, who is a major thief, who has stolen billions from a poor people. That isn't something which we acceptable. And the 2,000 people who have been injured, the 300 martyrs and prisoners who died under torture, these are crimes when he must be brought to justice.
And what did Saudi Arabia have to say about it?
Well, the Saudis say that Arab traditions of hospitality legality dictate that you cannot extradite a refugee, but he isn't an ordinary refugee. He is a criminal. And I think it's scandalous that we are sending to prison people for decades who have stolen an egg, and that we let free a man who has stolen an ox, and he has stolen billions from poor people, and somebody can go to prison for a dud check. So this is very important. This man must be brought to justice in Tunisia, because it's really an injury for the Tunisian people. They can't understand that a man like that can escape justice. The Egyptians have brought their dictator to justice, and this has appeased them a lot, and we think we will not rest until we bring him to justice.
Let's now get back to Tunisia. The Inerta Congress was held, and they actually defined a so-called centrist and moderate strategy. Do you agree with this definition? Because some don't, of course, and believe that Islamists are now hidden.
Well, I'm not going to bear suspicion on anyone's intentions. The Egyptian people are moderate and centrist people. They hate extremes, and today everybody wants to be in the center. All opposition parties say they are centrist and moderate. Everybody says he's centrist and moderate.
So it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean very much. But if everybody says that he's centrist and moderate, it's because they know that the Tunisians are moderate and centrist. And today we want to position ourselves in view of the next elections.
Some right-wing MPs in France say they don't want to see you or listen to you because they just believe that you're the Islamists' hand puppet or the useful idiot. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I'm sorry to have to tell them that they supported the dictators for a long time, and that in the face of the first democratic elected Arab president, I'm not surprised by their attitude.
Inerta would like to criminalize insulting the sacred. They consider that this infringes other people's freedom. Now, this is part of the document which was recently adopted. Is that necessary? Is that political a move?
No. My position is very clear. I prefer the worst excesses, the worst unintended consequences of freedom of expression than the muzzling of freedom and liberties. It's true that the freedom of each person is limited by the freedom of other people. And for the moment, in my view, we are leaving decades of dictatorship, and we must be very careful about these issues of liberties. There have been agreements have been signed between the members of the Troika, and my position is very clear. I assume responsibility for the unintended consequences of freedom of expression.
Talking about tensions within the Troika, quite a number of episodes took place with the recent extradition of Baghdadi Mahmoudi. He was Muammar Gaddafi's last prime minister. You were not informed, and you were very angry about it, and you almost resigned.
Absolutely, but here again it's a question of human rights. Me too. We should not have extradited this man. Not in any case in the current circumstances. The government ignored our request.
It did not ignore, it just happened in your back.
Yes, and it has created a serious crisis, but this crisis, although it is serious, has been kept under control because our national interest has required, and I have obtained guarantees that he will be well treated in prison.
Are you now reassured by the way he's being treated? Now he's back in Libya.
I'm still monitoring the case, and I have asked the Libyan authorities. I've talked with them and with the president, the prime minister of Libya, and he has assured me that he's being well treated, and I will make sure that he continues to be well treated. And I consider that it is also a question of personal honor, and the honor of Tunisia is also on the line.
But how can this whole situation work? There are tensions insofar as the governor of the central bank, whom you expelled, and one realizes that the situation overall just doesn't seem to run smoothly.
No, it's running quite smoothly, and there are 3 it's quite normal that there are tensions because there are three different political parties. They are both accomplices and rivals in politics, and in politics you have people with different opinions, different ideologies. So on the contrary, the miracle is that it is functioning, that it is working, and all we want is to maintain stability in our country and to arrive as quickly as possible to elections which will finally create the backbone of the future government and clarify things definitively. So on the contrary, in spite of our differences, in spite of the excesses, the Troika is functioning, is working. We meet regularly.
Were they resumed?
Yes, we have written down clearly all the limits and guarantees to avoid excesses, because in the last analysis, everyone knows that what is at stake is the stability of Tunisia, and we are responsible people.
Last question regarding Syria. You had proposed to grant political asylum to Assad. Is that still maintained today?
No, it was almost a joke. In fact, I had asked the Russians if they would be willing to harbor Bashar al-Assad. And the journalist said, no, the Russians don't want to harbor him. Would you harbor him? Never. Bashar al-Assad would accept to take refuge in Tunisia. This is completely crazy. So it was a joke which was exaggerated by the media.
What should be done with him?
Well, he must find a country that is willing to harbor him, any other country, but we must leave him a way out and exit. When you have a wounded tiger, if you lock him up in a cage, he's capable of doing the worst things and the worst excesses. And that's what's happening today. You must let him go out, leave power, leave his country. It goes against justice.
How about the International Court?
But the problem is, I consider that human lives are more important than justice. If we can manage to get him out of power and to give him guarantees in order to save Syrian human lives and blood, I'm in favor. It's debatable, but I consider that our basic work today is to limit more deaths in Syria. There have been enough deaths in Syria. He must leave, and the only way to get him to leave is for his Iranian and Russian friends to put pressure on him. We must put pressure, friendly pressure, on the Iranians and the Russians to get them to understand and that they are losing. They're defending their interests in Syria, but they're not defending their interests in the rest of the Arab world. The Arab world is furious with the Russians and the Iranians. I don't know what the result will be. It may explode into demonstrations against embassies. I must say, in all friendship to my Iranian and Russian friends, you must not mix up your exclusive interests in Syria, and it is certainly not that man who will defend their interests.
Moussef Morzouki, thank you for answering our questions on the interview. Thank you for being with us.